Today, we're diving into the story of Francisco de Goya. And let me tell you, he wasn't just an artist who defined an era of Spanish art. He became one of its biggest, most fascinating mysteries. I mean, you know his masterpieces, right? Those grand royal portraits, but also those really dark, haunting scenes. We know the art, but the man? The guy behind the brush? Well, that's a whole different puzzle, and it's an absolutely fascinating one. On one hand, you've got a man who painted for kings. I mean, he was the most sought-after artist in the entire Spanish monarchy. We're talking prestige, power, a life filled with royal commissions. But behind closed doors, he saved his true feelings for his walls. And what he put on those walls, well, it was the stuff of nightmares. His fears, his unfiltered take on humanity, it was all there. And believe it or not, the story doesn't even stop when he dies. It actually follows him right into the grave, ending with a final, totally shocking mystery that nobody has solved to this day. So yeah, you're gonna want to stick around for this one. Okay, so to really get how his work took such a radical turn, we have to start at the beginning, back when he was right at the very top. You know, Goya's early career was just a masterclass in ambition. He moves to Madrid, starts designing these incredible, vibrant tapestries for the royal palaces, and just takes off. His rise was absolutely meteoric. I mean, in just a couple of decades, he climbs all the way to Painter of the Chamber. That's the top job, the most prestigious gig for an artist in all of Spain. He had officially made it. But then, right when he's at the absolute peak of his success, something happens. Something that turns his entire world completely upside down and changes him and his art forever. So there he is, at age 46. And boom, he's hit with a sudden, really severe illness. And when he finally recovers, his world had gone completely silent. His hearing was gone. For good. And here's the thing. To this day, we still don't know exactly what it was. Doctors, historians, they've been debating it for centuries. Was it lead poisoning from his paints? Syphilis? Maybe even a super rare autoimmune disorder? We just don't know. But what we do know is the result. It plunged him into a world of total, permanent silence. So you have this huge personal crisis, and at the exact same time, Spain is being torn apart by brutal political turmoil. It was basically a perfect storm, and it's what completely reshaped his vision as an artist. I mean, the change in his art is just, it's night and day. It's like you're looking at two totally different artists. The Goya before the silence, he's painting these bright, optimistic scenes for the royals. But the Goya after silence? Wow. He starts creating these deeply personal, often horrifying works that just stare right into the abyss of human suffering, like his famous series, The Disasters of War. And this quote from a letter he wrote to a friend, man, it just says it all. I fear no witches, goblins, ghosts. I fear only human beings. His whole focus shifted. The monsters weren't in fairy tales anymore. For him, they were real people doing real, terrible things. Suddenly, he wasn't just a painter anymore. He became a kind of journalist, a chronicler. His art became a mirror, reflecting a society getting absolutely torn apart by the Inquisition and the Napoleonic Wars. His etchings and paintings, they exposed everything. His art was now a tool, almost a weapon, for social commentary. Okay, so all of this is building to what is, without a doubt, the most intense and mysterious chapter of his entire artistic life. The paintings he never, ever intended for anyone else to see. So, in his later years, Goya buys this house just outside Madrid. And here's a crazy coincidence for you. The house was already known as La Quinta del Sordo, which means the Villa of the Deaf Man. How weird is that? And it was right here, inside these walls, that he was about to unleash his innermost demons. 14. That's how many murals he painted inside this house. But here's the kicker. He didn't use canvases. He painted them directly onto the plaster of his walls, in total privacy. These weren't for some client. They weren't for the king. These were just for him. And they've come to be known as the Black Paintings. And trust me, they are terrifying, totally bleak, deeply unsettling visions. You've probably seen the most famous one, Saturn devouring his son. This was Goya alone in his house, confronting his own darkness and all the darkness he saw in the world around him. But this is maybe the most chilling part of all. Years later, people did X-rays of the walls. And what did they find?
Underneath these nightmarish images were lighter, more cheerful scenes. For example, underneath that horrific painting of Saturn, he had originally painted a graceful dancer. He literally painted over the light with darkness.
Which brings us to the end of his life, and believe it or not, the beginning of one last, totally inexplicable mystery. So Goya dies in exile in France in 1828 and gets buried there. Fast forward about 50 years. Spain decides, hey, let's bring our greatest artist back home. So in 1888, they exhume his body, and when they open the coffin, they're met with a total shock. Goya's skeleton is there, but his skull is missing. So what happened? I mean, the theories are all over the place. Was his skull stolen by phrenologists? Those people who studied the skull shapes of so-called geniuses? Did Goya himself actually donate his head to a doctor for scientific study? And the weirdest part? There was no sign that the coffin had been forced open. To this very day, the mystery remains completely unsolved. You know, when you look at his whole life, from celebrated court painter to a silent observer of absolute chaos, from public triumphs to private nightmares, Goya's story is all about these huge contrasts. So maybe it's only fitting, right, that a man who spent his life exposing humanity's darkest corners would leave us with one final, unsettling mystery of his own.